Good evening. Hello to everyone. My class and Mr. X's class. Today we're here to talk about the word nonetheless. So nonetheless is an adverb. It's actually a special kind of adverb called a conjunctive adverb. We've seen them before. Like we saw the word likewise, I'm pretty sure, earlier this year. So what is a conjunctive adverb? It's a word that is sort of like a conjunction. In what way? Well, because a conjunction connects ideas together. Conjunction connects ideas together inside the same sentence. That's not what a conjunctive adverb does. It connects ideas together, but it's between or across often two sentences or two clauses joined with a semicolon. Clauses is just basically a clause is like sorry about this, I'm going to go up here and write. Two clauses with, I forgot to write that here, two clauses with a semicolon. So a clause has a subject and predicate, so it's basically something that could be a sentence. So you can think about it as pretty much connecting two sentences. So here we have an example with a period. So, and what does it mean? I'll say that first, okay, before I go into my example. So we know that it connects two sentences. What does it mean? It means despite this fact, and if that doesn't make sense, another way to say it is, it says that something is true, even though a fact or argument makes it seem not to be true. So it's something that you think is a certain way, but in fact it is not what you thought it was. It's different. It's the opposite. So here's an example of that. Orange juice is promoted as being very healthy. People think it's very healthy. You read about it, it's healthy. People say, oh, you should drink orange juice every morning, it's healthy. But I just read an article that said that although people think that orange juice is healthy, really it's not. It's promoted as being very healthy. You could say, period, nonetheless, comma. That's the structure you'd use. Period, nonetheless, comma. A study found that it can cause fat in the liver. So we think it's good. We think it's good, but actually it's not good. It's the opposite of good. It's bad. The second part, after the nonetheless, is where you say the thing that's the opposite. That you say like what people might think is not true, but it's actually true. That surprising fact, that's the opposite. That's what goes in the second part. Okay? So that's one example. As I was saying, it can be two sentences with a period. So right there you see there's a period, promoted as being very healthy, period. And then the word nonetheless connects that to the second sentence. It shows the relationship. It shows that the second part is going to show something that's the opposite of the first part. So let's look at the second sentence down here, the second example. So we have the exact same ideas, but there's just a different way to do it with punctuation. The second way you can do it is you have two clauses, which are like simple sentences, but instead of having a period, it's a semicolon. Because remember, what I tell my classes, a semicolon is basically like a period. It functions like a period. It is the end in the sense that there's one sentence on one side and another sentence on the other side. Really. I mean, technically they're clauses, but pretty much they act like sentences. It has a subject and predicate on this side. Over here it has another different subject and predicate on that side. So it's like a sentence, right? And so if I know in Spanish it's called punto y coma, I tell my students punto y coma es más punto o más coma. And I say es más punto. But I think people get confused because they see both. They see the period and the comma. Sometimes they think that it can be used like a comma, but it cannot be used like a comma. So here, when you put a semicolon, it's kind of similar to what the period is doing there. It's separating basically two sentences. One difference is that they should be about related topics. These are about related topics. Okay, they're both about orange juice. So we have with the word nonetheless, we have orange juice is promoted as being very healthy. Semicolon, nonetheless, comma. And then this second part again is the opposite part. So that's the opposite of what the opposite of the first part, something that's surprising. Nonetheless, a study found that it can cause fat in the liver. Exactly the same. So what's different? Just the first one has a period and it has a capital N. The second one has a semicolon and a lowercase n. Both have a comma after nonetheless. So I'm talking a lot about punctuation because that's what people often mix up with these words. They get mixed up about it. Here's an example having to do with English literature. Some writers work hard all their lives. Nonetheless, sin embargo, they never become famous. So you might expect if someone works hard, maybe they're going to be famous, but no, in fact, it's not true. They never became famous. Spanish, no obstante, sin embargo, no word families. Synonym, nevertheless. Nevertheless and nonetheless are really pretty much exactly the same. They're two ways to say the same thing. They're both conjunctive adverbs. They both function the same way. Just like I was doing down here with the example. It's the same thing with this one, nevertheless. However is also a conjunctive adverb, and it has a similar idea of like the opposite of the first part. Despite is another way to say this idea of like something being the opposite, but the grammar is a little different because despite is a preposition. So after despite, you put a noun. You could say like despite my tiredness, I was happy. That's different from this down here. So that's about it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll show this, I'll show this, I'll show this. Thank you very much.